Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing a recipe for this plant-based twist on a gumbo soup type of dish with some cornbread on the side. So I'm starting off by getting my butternut squash prepared to be roasted. You can use sweet potatoes, but I'm using butternut squash because it's easier on the digestive system. So I'm just cutting it in what was supposed to be half. I don't know what happened, but cutting it in half and scooping out the seeds so that I can rub it down with some olive oil and a little bit of pink Himalayan salt and black pepper. I'm going to be roasting the squash in a tall oven safe pan with parchment paper on top. Whatever you choose to roast it in, make sure it's covered on top to keep the moisture in so that it can get soft. We want it to get soft because we're going to scoop it out later to add it to the gumbo soup once it's finished. So once I got my squash in the oven, I'm working on that trio of the onion, bell pepper, celery. So I'm taking a whole medium white onion and dicing it finely. And I'm gonna follow up with a medium-sized red bell pepper and do the same thing, just dicing it up really finely. You technically don't have to use a red bell pepper, but I noticed the difference in taste between the green peppers and the red peppers and the orange peppers, and I just feel like this one has the most flavor. It makes sense seeing as that the red bell peppers are the ripest form of the bell pepper before it falls off of a plant. So it's up to you, but do know they do taste different. Once my bell pepper was completely diced up, I'm taking 6 stalks of celery, and all the measurements for this will be in the description box. Should have mentioned that earlier. Sorry, whoops. But I'm just chopping my celery into smaller pieces as well. Between me finishing up dicing my bell pepper and starting to dice my celery, I heated up a large soup pot on medium heat and added a little bit of oil so that I could saute those. And I let them saute together for about 10 minutes, stirring often. While they're sauteing, I'm getting my garlic cloves un I don't even know, peeled. Yeah, we're gonna say that. Unpeeling my garlic cloves and mincing them very finely so that they can be added to the pot. So now that I'm done with my slicing and dicing, we're about to get to adding everything together. This is a really simple recipe. So at this point, you're just adding different things to the pot. So I'm adding in all of my minced garlic and stirring thoroughly so that it can touch the bottom of the pot and actually start to cook. But you want to watch it once you add your garlic, because if anybody familiar with garlic, garlic burns really really fast. So keep your eyes on it once you add it to the pot, but stir it in very well. Now I'm gonna go in with 3 tablespoons of Cajun seasoning. So I like using this brand because it's not spicy. It got a little kick to it, but it's not spicy. I'm not really into super duper hot food. So, this is very mild, but it does have a nice kick to it. So you can use whatever type of or whatever brand of Cajun seasoning that you want to use. You can even use Old Bay for real, or you can make your own. And that way you know what type of spice you want, you know what type of spice you like, because I'm not really into super spicy foods. But once I added in all the seasoning, I just stirred it in to thoroughly coat all the vegetables. At this point, I'm going in with my can of diced tomatoes. Now, I was supposed to have twice the amount of diced tomatoes, but I did not get another can. I knew I had all the materials to make this meal at home, but I forgot to get another can of tomatoes. So ideally you would want to use two 14-ounce cans of tomatoes or just one big 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes and stir that in, but it'll work just fine with one. That's obviously what I did because that's what I had. But the first time I made this meal, I used 28 ounces, and I just recommend that. It's no difference on taste or nothing like that. It's just, make the meal look fuller and add a little bit more flavor, color, all of that. Now I'm adding my garbanzo beans to the pot. This is about 2 cans. I just drained them and rinsed them. And I'm getting my okra out the freezer to get ready to add that in. So I added in 2 cups of frozen okra. If you happen to see this or be cooking this during okra season, get it fresh. But because it's February right now, at the time I'm making and recording this video, it's not the season. So I bought it frozen and I just added in 2 cups. So at this point, just about everything that needs to be in this gumbo soup is in here. So I'm adding in the vegetable broth. I'm adding in 4 cups of vegetable broth. Aim for low sodium if you don't make your own. And again, just stirring everything very, very, very thoroughly. This is optional, but here you can add a little bit more pink salt and black pepper to taste before covering the soup. And we're gonna bring it down to a low simmer, from medium heat to low simmer. Cover it and allow it to simmer for 20 minutes. Now let's get to this cornbread. So I'm just gonna add all of my ingredients to the actual baking pan that the cornbread is gonna be in. If you wanna do dry ingredients in one bowl, then add in the wet ingredients, feel free to do so. But that's just more dishes to me. So I'm adding in 2.5 cups of spring water. You can use plant-based milk if you want to. There is no need to, so it's up to you. And then I'm going in with my ground flax seeds. Now, if you watched my video on plant-based egg replacement, you will know flax and water together can act as a substitute for eggs, although I did end up using another method for egg substitute that I mentioned in that video. I'll link it in the description box for you to go watch that. So here I'm about to add in my 2 cups of almond flour. So if you have a nut allergy, I would just suggest that you use another flour, maybe like spelt flour or something. But I don't know how it's gonna, I don't think it would be any different as far as like taste. If anything, it might be consistency, because almond flour is a little bit like flakier. So I've never made my cornbread without almond flour though. As long as I've been plant-based and making my own cornbread, I've always made it with almond flour. So I'm not gonna sit here and lie and tell you what it is or it's not gonna do. But if you have a nut allergy, then just swap out the almond flour for something else. Then after that, I'm going to go in with 2 cups of cornmeal. Again, all of the ingredients, measurements for the ingredients will be in the description box. Now I'm going to be adding in some vegan butter. So you want to add in about 1/3 cup of melted vegan butter, or you can use coconut oil. I feel like this is a little less than 1/3 cup because, again, I knew I had all the ingredients to make this meal, but I didn't actually go check. So I had less than 1/3 cup of vegan butter, but either way, it still turned out great. So 1/3 cup of vegan butter or coconut oil. Make sure they're melted. I'm sprinkling in a little bit of pink Himalayan salt. And then I'm going to be adding in 3/4 cup of agave nectar as my sweetener. If you want to use maple syrup, go crazy. So I'm taking my whisk and mixing everything thoroughly together before I prep my intentional egg substitutes to add in to help it rise and be fluffy and airy. So for my egg substitute, I'm using the baking soda lemon juice method that I mentioned in my plant-based egg substitutes video. Again, I will link that in the description box for you to go watch. And this egg substitute is the very last thing I added into my cornbread before I put it in the oven. So adding it in, and I'm gonna just take my whisk and whisk it in so that it's evenly distributed before I place this in the oven for 30 to 45 minutes. I ended up baking mine for 40 minutes and then broiling it a little bit just so that the top wasn't so light skinned. Now it's time to add in the butternut squash that we roasted at the beginning into the gumbo soup. So it should be soft enough for you to just spoon it in and add it in at this point. If it's not soft enough for you to do that, you need to put it back in the oven and let it roast longer. Mine was in there for about an hour. And then again, just mixing it thoroughly, and I covered it and just let all the flavors like merge while the cornbread was finishing up in the oven. And there you go, simple plant-based gumbo soup type dish, perfect for the winter. If you tried this recipe, let me know how it went in the comment section.